You know, I read an alarming statistic, and that statistic was that about 13% of all people 12 years and older have some type of hearing loss. How'd that ever happen? What did we do? What are we doing, and how can we prevent it? There's a lot we have to talk about today, so stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Hi there, Mary Beth.
Good morning, Andrea. How are you on this beautiful morning?
Oh, I love these mornings. You know, it's the merry month of May. It's Older Americans Month, where we've been acknowledging that right along. And let's see, it's also it's many things. Every month is many things.
Hearing and Speech Awareness Month.
Yes, yes. So last week we talked about that it was Healthy Vision Month, another very important. And yeah, today we're going to talk all about better hearing for adults.
Yes, so let me introduce our guest for today. We have Dr. Gavin. Dr. Gavin is an audiologist. So good morning, Dr. Gavin.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're working.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm an audiologist at Hackensack Meridian Health, JFK Medical Center. I've been here for 3 years, and I'm excited to inform you guys about hearing loss today.
Such an important topic that not everyone pays attention to.
No.
For sure. It definitely is at the bottom of people's lists, I would say.
And, you know, it really is. And I really believe that some of it has to do with vanity. And I just think there's so many more advances for, to help you that don't you want to hear what's going on with your family, with your grandchildren, if you can?
For sure. For sure. You know, technology has come a long way. And that's something that I definitely want to touch on today, because vanity does not have to be an issue anymore.
You know what? Well, let's to get started, let's just talk about some of the signs and symptoms of hearing loss. You know, SCAN, obviously, we're dealing with Senior Citizens Activity Network. And I have a feeling, Mary Beth, that many more of our members are experiencing hearing loss than we realize.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Dr. Gavin, yeah.
So I would say that the number one thing patients say when they come in is that everyone mumbles. So it's kind of like pointing fingers and blaming everyone else rather than saying, hey, maybe I do have something wrong with my hearing. So if you feel like everyone mumbles, you may have a hearing loss. Tinnitus or ringing or any type of noise in your ears, whether it's buzzing, hissing, that could be a sign of hearing loss. A lot of people say, you know, I can hear everyone, but it's not clear. I can't understand what they're saying. Clarity is hearing loss. You know, just because you can hear, you know, certain low sounds doesn't necessarily mean your hearing is normal. Clarity is a huge part of hearing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, I have trouble hearing in background noise. I went to a restaurant and I couldn't hear what the person was saying.
Right.
Actually, something that happens, or something you notice first, is that you're having trouble in background noise. You may notice the TV is louder. I used to have the volume on 10. Now I have it on 20. Could be a sign. Asking people for repetition. It's actually a good thing because you're staying in the conversation, but at the same time, why are you asking for repetition? And then just avoiding social situations because you're embarrassed, because you don't want to say what. These are all signs of hearing loss.
Mm-hmm.
So does that sound familiar to anybody out there? I bet it does. So if you think you answered, if you did answer yes.
Check off any of those boxes.
Right, Mary Beth, to one or more of those questions, you may be experiencing hearing loss. So Dr. Gavin, what do you need to do now once you acknowledge it?
Right. So acknowledgement is definitely the first step. You should make an appointment with your primary care physician, or any specialist that you regularly see, just to rule out, you know, any underlying medical conditions. You could, you know, simply have some wax in your ears that needs to be removed. And you'll want to do that before the next step, which is getting a hearing test, seeing an audiologist, a full audiologic evaluation. We too will make sure that, you don't have any wax or fluid or any foreign bodies in your ears that would affect your hearing. We'll do a thorough, hearing test, seeing the lowest levels you can hear, testing your clarity, testing how well you hear in background noise. And then from there, we'll be able to make the proper recommendations. If we need to do, a hearing aid evaluation and talk about amplification, we'll do that. So the first step really is just seeing your physician to make sure you're, medically okay.
Right.
Well, that makes sense, because what medical issues might you have that could be causing a hearing problem? I think that would be interesting to know.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, things like diabetes can, put you at risk for hearing loss. If you're, undergoing cancer treatment, things like chemotherapy can put you at risk for hearing loss. Kidney problems. There are so many underlying medical conditions actually related to hearing loss that a lot of people don't know about. Certain medications too. There are a ton of medications that are ototoxic, which can cause damage to your ears.
Wow.
Wow, that's not good. So you
Right.
really have to see your doctor. You have to rule out many things before you get to the root of this.
Yes, for sure.
And Dr. Gavin, is there a certain age that someone should consider having a baseline for their hearing, so if there's been a change? Is there a magic age for that?
So there's no magic age, but it is important to have a baseline. I would say in your 30s, 40s, get a hearing test, just a full, complete diagnostic audiologic evaluation, just to know, okay, this is what my hearing is like.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is recommended that you get tested annually just to monitor for any changes so that you can stay on top of it. With hearing, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you want to stay on top of it. You want to monitor every year. So by the age of 40, I would say, make sure you've had at least a baseline.
Because the longer a hearing loss goes undiagnosed, the implications that come with it can be more severe.
Yes.
You want to catch that as early as you can.
Yeah.
So just like you would go to your eye doctor every year for your annual eye exam, you're suggesting that we should also be getting an annual hearing exam.
Yeah. I mean, hearing loss does not discriminate. You can have hearing loss at age statistic you just gave, 12 and up. So there really is no reason to wait. Just if you're going to get your eyes checked, like you said, get your hearing checked.
So Andrea, before we came on, just want to go ahead and talk about the statistic.
Right. No, well, you go ahead, Mary Beth.
Well, we were talking about the younger generation listening to music and playing their video games with their headsets on. And Dr. Gavin was saying that you're seeing 12 and 14-year-olds coming in with ringing in the ears and showing that they're experiencing hearing loss.
Right. So, rather than, saying, okay, I'm 40 now, let me get a hearing test. If you have any of the symptoms I mentioned in the beginning, if your ears are ringing, if you feel like everyone mumbles, if you notice any difficulty in background noise, go get that baseline. It can't hurt. 12-year-olds are having signs of hearing loss. 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, they're saying their ears are ringing. And it's because of noise exposure, most of them. And noise exposure isn't just from, wearing headphones and playing video games. You have noise exposure if you were a veteran, if you're a hunter, if you listen to rock music. These are all things that can cause hearing loss.
But, just to clarify, when we say listen to rock music, I mean, we're talking constant exposure at very loud volumes, like concerts all the time, sitting in the front row, being right by all the speakers. We're not just talking, so I don't want people to say just,
Right. Yeah.
we want to clarify, but constant exposure over and over at very loud levels to anything is
Yeah.
not going to be good for you. I've
even gone to a wedding where the music was very loud. And then for the next few days, my ears were ringing. And there's a phenomenon known as a temporary threshold shift, where you can have a temporary hearing loss just from one exposure. But if you have multiple exposures, that temporary shift can become permanent.
And I was going to say ear protection too, when you're doing yard work and working with your equipment and your blowers and all that good stuff. You got to protect those ears.
For sure. Yep. And they're so easy to get. You can go into a drugstore and just pick up a pack and have them at hand.
Just like your eyes, which is, one of our most important assets as human beings, and our hearing is as well. And I feel like so many people just don't even give it the time of day to think of, you would use eye protection if you were maybe using a saw or you don't want to get splinters in your eye, but you might want to think about using ear protection for taking care of your ears. We just don't do that enough. I realize that.
We really don't. And there's so many options. Like I said, you can go to a drugstore and just pick up ones that, you kind of
earplugs.
But then they also have custom ones that you can have made so that they're a little bit more comfortable, and people may be more inclined to wear them if they're custom fit for their ears and they're comfortable. But then there is that group of people that just wants the ease of it, going into Rite Aid and buying a pair and just, having them so you can put them in anytime you need. So there are different options.
Now, one very particular problem coming from having hearing loss as an adult is the social implications that life is just not the same for you. And it's way more than I just don't want to go out to dinner anymore. So you want to just talk a little bit about that? You must see a lot of adults who they've withdrawn because they can't hear.
Mm-hmm. So it is so much more than avoiding going out to dinner. It's avoiding even having conversations with your spouse or your family because it turns into an argument. He can't hear me, she can't hear me. So we just don't talk to each other anymore. It causes just isolation in general. So yes, you're not going to the restaurants. You're not going to that wedding you were invited to. You're not talking to your family anymore. You disconnect from your grandchildren if you have them. And when you disconnect, you're not using your brain the way that you were once using it. Right. So all those pathways that, in your ears that lead up to your brain, you're not stimulating them anymore. And then, like I said before, if you don't use it, you lose it. So those pathways just shut down and stop working. And all the research right now is saying that if you're not using those pathways and you're not stimulating them, it can lead to cognitive decline. So things like dementia, just because you're not using your brain, you're shutting down, you're isolating yourself. So it's so much more. We hear with our ears, but we really hear with our brain. So you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by not getting your hearing tested, by not treating your hearing loss, because it's going to turn into other things.
And that's the scary part of it.
Yeah. I was just going to say an additional thing that I would say the pandemic has maybe brought to the forefront is a lot of more people were starting to use the Zoom and the FaceTimes. And for people with a hearing disability, a lot of people read lips.
They do.
In actuality, it's better to have a video chat with somebody who has a hearing disability than a standard phone call, because at least they can read your lips as they're speaking with you.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to use, the technology and have a video chat. You're actually
right.
You say better off, but it helps.
Well, you can really focus on their lips,
right?
That's
right.
that's a great point.
Yeah. And when you have hearing loss and, you're not wearing hearing aids and it's untreated and you go to a doctor's visit, you may walk out of there not even knowing what the doctor said because you're too embarrassed to say what. And now that we're wearing the masks, you don't have the ability to lip read what the doctor is saying to you.
That's right.
Oh, if he wants you to change your dose of medication and you just, yes, I understand. You walk out of there and you don't know that you have to change, your dose is being changed. So it's really important. And yes, they've come out with the clear masks now so that you're able to lip read. They're trying, but the biggest step is just admitting that something is wrong so that you can get the help and avoid this, ripple effect of so many things in your life being affected by hearing loss.
Dr. Gavin, let's talk a little bit about the technology that comes into play now to help people with hearing loss, because I know that it's a game changer. Everything is so different. A lot of people are still fixated on their wearing a big bulky hearing aid, and that's the vanity situation. But that's just not the case anymore, is it?
Not at all. Hearing aids are so discreet. There's different styles. You can still get the one that sits behind your ear, but it's tiny now. It's very tiny. There's ones that just go inside, the bowl of your ear here. They make ones that are even invisible. They go so far in that you can't even see them. Hearing aids are now rechargeable. So for a lot of people, you have dexterity issues. So it's hard to change batteries.
Oh, okay.
No longer have to worry about that. You just pop them on a charger at night, wake up in the morning and pull them off. You don't have to fumble with a little battery anymore. They come in different colors. So if you have hair and you want it to blend in, if you have those vanity issues, they're so discreet. And today, so many people are wearing Bluetooth devices, to talk on the cell phone. So
that's true.
Who's to say that you're wearing a hearing aid or a Bluetooth device? Like people probably won't even know the difference. So there are so many options. And then, in extreme cases where hearing aids aren't powerful enough and you need an implant, those have come a long way too. All of these devices are compatible with smartphones, so you can adjust the volume of them from your smartphone. Nobody will ever know what you're doing. You don't have to sit there and push a little button. You just take your phone out and adjust the volume. So they really have come a long way.
And the thing is that, you as you just said, I see people all the time. They're talking. I realize they have a Bluetooth. You know what? Nobody is even going to look at you or think differently because we're so used to seeing this in people fiddling with your phone, having a Bluetooth. I think no one's going to know. But the most important thing is you're going to be part of the
quality
human
of life.
race again. You're going to hear, you can participate. And isn't that worth everything?
Right. People are more likely to notice your hearing loss. And when I say that, I mean, you saying, what'd you say? Rather than a little device in your ear.
Yeah.
People are only going to notice you, questioning and asking for repetition. They're not going to notice that little piece in your ear when it's easier to have a conversation.
Excellent point.
Do you have any, I want to use the word strategies. I'm not really sure how to say it. So if you know your spouse or even maybe your grandkids or someone in your family is experiencing hearing loss and they are simply not doing anything about it, what might be a good way to gently say to them, listen, you need some help here?
I think just making them aware of all the research that's happening today. When people realize that it's not just their hearing, it's so much more than that. There's all that brain involvement. And the fact that you're more likely to have some sort of cognitive decline is eye-opening for a lot of people. Here at JFK, we have some literature that we're able to give, And you can see it just sets something off. It's like, wow, what am I doing? Look what's going to happen to me if I don't do something about it. So just being informed and staying up to date on where all this research is going, because it's not just your ears. It's so much more than that.
So hearing loss can lead to cognitive decline, and that's a pretty scary thing, especially if you could do that you could do something to change that.
Exactly, yeah.
And hearing loss does not improve. I mean, once you've lost it, is there a continuum here?
So, hearing loss due to things like wax and ear infections, yes, those things can improve. But as we age, the anatomy of the ear, it begins to, not work the way that it used to. And that is non-reversible. So we have hair cells inside of our ear, and they just don't function over time the way that they used to. And there is no, going back. But we can preserve what we have. So when you wear hearing aids, you're preserving what you have. When you're not wearing hearing aids, it can only get worse. But yes, to answer your question, it will not improve. You're just preserving what you have.
And then I'm thinking, as your hearing is declining, well, then your cognitive abilities are going to be declining along with that.
Yep.
So that's a pretty scary thought when,
And I think
absorb.
Going back to your initial question, that's what's going to open up someone's eyes. That's what's going to make someone say, maybe I should do something about it.
Well, Mary Beth, I feel like we need to put a sign up in the
Mhm.
office for when people come back. Yeah, it's important. It's as important as your eyes and every other body part. And I feel like many people just slough it off like it's no big deal.
You're
The
right.
old "it'll never happen to me" thing.
You're right.
Until
right.
it does.
I've had to convince my own mother to come in. This is what I do for a living, and it's something she brushes off, but now she gets it. So you just have to educate people. If you have the facts, then you're able to educate.
Well, you certainly have helped to educate our community today. So thank you so much.
Really, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Gavin. So as always, I forgot to mention, but as always, we'll put Dr. Gavin's contact info in the Facebook comments and on YouTube as well. And remember this, that, you get your eyes checked, you make your appointment with your eye doctor. Maybe that's a good time as well to make your appointment with an audiologist. You've never been to an audiologist, now's a good time to start, right?
That's right.
Okay. So Dr. Karissa Gavin, thank you so much for being our guest today. I think we all learned a lot. I know I certainly did. It was an eye-opener. I have to tell you, it was really an eye-opener. That your hearing loss can lead to cognitive decline. You don't want that to happen to you. Absolutely not. Okay, well, remember, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good day, everyone.